So if you don't have a plan for conditioning your own mind and emotions, you're going to fall into somebody else's plan. That's just reality.
Suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
People can take away all the things, but who you become, no one can take away.
If you want to change your life, change the quality of questions you ask yourself each day.
But when you do suffer, and I promise you do, you correct me if I'm wrong, it'll because you're worrying about something in the future. How's this going to happen? Will this come together? Suffering can be worry, it can be anger, it can be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you want to serve greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it in an instant because the nature of the human mind is to constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2 million year old device, and it is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you, it's designed to make you survive.
Right.
And that's why it's always looking for what's wrong. But it used to be what's wrong, a saber-toothed tiger, so I can protect myself. Now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money when 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day?
Right.
And so my view is, if you're watching, if you're listening to this, my goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love, you would do what you love, you'd take awe in a sunset, you'd smell the air, you would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait?
Right.
Right? Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me, I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
You know, you're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all.
Right.
I'm gonna live in a beautiful state. Because here's what's gonna happen. Anybody watching, you may lose a family member, you probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business the government might change the rules. They might change things radically that you can't even do anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. I'm not saying anybody will, but no one knows what's going to really happen in your life. Life's full of uncertainty, but here's what you can know. You can decide no matter what happens, you could have a great time. If somebody like Viktor Frankl can be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that and experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz, then human beings have a capacity they've undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband or your wife or your kids or your coworkers or whoever, your boss, has to behave a certain way for you to be happy, and if they don't, you're unhappy, then you're always going to be unhappy, because the more people around you, the more they're going to change that, because they're all human, right?
First lesson of being able to shape your destiny is how to really manage and master your emotions. Because most people never learn to manage that. You know, why do people overdrink? Why do they oversmoke? Why do they go out there and try to distract themselves through shopping or doing something else to try and change their focus? It's because they've really not learned how to master their own emotions. And, you know, look at people like Elvis Presley, or you look at a John Belushi or a Freddie Prinze, who seem to have all the quote-unquote success, and yet they're no longer here, and the quality of their life was questionable. And I think the second lesson is that most people never learn how to really master their physical body. You know, not just how you look, but the amount of energy that you have moment to moment. That determines how your life's going to be. I think most people fail because they run out of emotional gas while they're climbing the mountain of success. Third thing that causes people to be unhappy is they've never mastered their relationships. And how am I ever going to have a great relationship with you or my wife or my kids if I haven't mastered my relationship with myself? So if you don't have a plan for conditioning your own mind and emotions, you're going to fall into somebody else's plan. That's just reality. And if you want to be physically fit, you certainly don't go out one time and do aerobics one time and say, boy, now I'll be healthy for life. What you do is you go and you condition yourself on a consistent basis, and what happens is each day you make a little bit of progress until now you are vital and strong and you have your power. And the same thing is true with your emotions. If you don't exercise your emotions, if you don't take control of your courage and your compassion, if you don't utilize them, you lose them.
But what the hell is success? It's hitting an expectation. And I always tell people, man, trade your expectations for appreciation, and it's a whole new world instantly. If you can appreciate this moment, if you can't find ecstasy in this moment, in a conversation with a friend, and looking in your wife's eyes, being with your children, going on a run, if you can't find ecstasy now, I'm here to tell you, more money, more people, more love, more business, more anything is not going to give you more exit.
Right.
If you can't do it here now, you're not going to do it there when you got more. Yeah. So why not do it now and have a rich life right now? I tell people, money, that's one thing. Like having financial abundance, there's skills, that's a science. But wealth, it's a decision. It's like you can be wealthy right now. I live in Fiji a good portion of the time. There are these villagers there. They're the richest people I know. They're happy, they laugh, they love, they don't give a damn about the economics. Other people say they're poor. When I first went there, I was trying to do things for them. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm so happy. Wealthy people come over from the United States and they go travel around and try to figure out what to do, and they're gonna spend 9 years to do this and this and this so they can finally sit down and be happy. And the Fijian guy goes, why don't you sit on the beach right now, dude, and experience it? Why spend the 9 years? Why not have it now? That's my invitation. And the problem is most of us are trying to be something we're not. And it isn't so much about change, about changing yourself. The change happens when you be yourself. Know thyself, that's the hard part for most people, and then be thyself. Because most of us in our lives, out of our desire for respect or achievement or love or connection or something, we've been trying to be the way we think we have to be in order to get that love, respect, appreciation, whatever it is we've been after at some unconscious level. And we've been doing it so long that we think that this is who we are. It's not what we get that makes us happy, it's who we become. How we live our life, who we are as a person. People can take away all the things, but who you become, no one can take away. I deal with people all the time. I mentioned to you off camera, 2 people I coached yesterday. One's a presidential candidate, and the other one is a rap superstar, right? Both in the same day. And without naming any names, people that have everything by your point of view, most people's point of view, they have the fame and they have the love and millions of people love them and they have great economics, financial freedom, and they have homes and they have the fashion, they have everything, they're the shit. I can't tell you how many of them are miserable.
Right.
The majority are miserable. I'm not bullshitting. I'm the one who gets the phone call from the vast majority. When I can tell you that the science of achievement, there are a lot of people that are damn good at that, and they still don't have an extraordinary life. They have an extraordinary life. You see it as extraordinary, but I get the phone call from the multi-billionaire who tells me he wants to do this thing on his business, but what he really find out is he's miserable as hell, and he's hoping somehow I'm gonna rub off on him on that side too.
Right.
And so I give him what he asked for, the change in his business, but I also give him what he needs, which is the change inside of him. So the second skill is the art of fulfillment. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't just achieve, you gotta be fulfilled. As simplistic as that sounds, but it's an art. It's not a science.
Sure.
It's a science to making money, come on. Any age, any color, any background, any gender, if you do these things, you'll have an abundance of money. You do these things, you're gonna have too much month at the end of the money. You're gonna have financial stress, right? Body. Everyone's biochemically different, but you and I both know there's fundamental rules, laws. There's a science to the body. You violate that science, you're gonna have disease, you're gonna have low energy. You align with that, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. It's gonna affect everything in your life. It's a science. Fulfillment's not like that. Fulfillment is as different as our human beings. You wanna know what God or the universe likes? Look at the jungle, look at the forest.
Right.
It's diverse, right? So most people think, well, I wanna get that because they've been modeling somebody else, and that might work on how to achieve something. It'll never work for what to fulfill you. How many people you know, like you, got what you thought you wanted and you weren't fulfilled?
Right.
And that, I always tell people, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure. Because if you go at something and you fail and you're an achiever, you don't fail. You go, I learned something, I'll just try something else.
Right.
I'm gonna still get there. But when you succeed and you're not happy, you're technically screwed.
Right.
Tony, hard to imagine this now as we look at you in this setting. But when you were in that 400 square foot apartment, 38 pounds overweight, broke, in this deep dark hole, couldn't get out, what was the first thing you did? What was the first thought you had to get yourself out?
I think part of it is I felt so darn much pain I had to change. You know, I was in a place where I hated what I was doing. I hated the environment. I thought to myself, why do I have to do this? Why am I experiencing all this in my life? I don't want to work. I don't want to do any of these things. And that didn't change me. Once I got enough pain, one day I changed the question I was asking myself. And instead of saying, why do I have to do this? Or how come this has happened to me? I asked the question of, what would happen if? What would happen if I turned my whole life around? What would happen if all of a sudden I went and learned some things that could change it all? And what I began to do literally is open up a new possibility. I think most people's lives, they fail primarily because they don't open up the possibility, so they never take the actions that could change their life. And because I asked, how can I turn my life around? Now, what can I do to make things work? I started getting new answers. You know, they say, ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. And the key is, if you ask, why is my life so horrible, you'll get lots of information about why it's horrible. If you say, why can't I ever succeed, your brain will tell you all the reasons why you can't. If you say, how come I always succeed? How can I turn this around? How can I make my life greater? How can I contribute? You'll get those answers too. If you want to change your life, change the quality of questions you ask yourself each day.
Jim Rohn used to have this phrase, he said, success leaves clues. He said, if there's anything you want in your life, don't assume that somebody has some special gift. They may have a gift, but they probably developed it, most of it. And if you sow the same seeds, you'll reap the same reward. So figure out what this person's doing different than anyone else and do that. He used to have a funny way of describing it. He used to say, Tony, find out what poor people read and don't read it. It's like, because he said, that's the fabric they're trying to build their mind from. Find out somebody who's successful, wealthy, not just financially wealthy, but somebody who's rich emotionally and spiritually and physically and financially, and find out how do they live their life differently? What are the things they believe? What are some of the daily disciplines that they're a part of? And so really early on, I got obsessive about wanting to have all the answers. So I said, I'm gonna read a book a day. Because I figured, you know, a person takes 10, 15 years of their life, they pour 2 or 3, 4 years into this book, and you absorb in a few hours, literally a decade's worth of life experience. And I'm into compressing time. So